We've talked a lot up to this point today about what AI can do just as a single input and a single output. We've talked about its limitations. We've talked about its success. What we're going to do now is we're going to go beyond just a single input and a single output. And we're going to look at what AI can do when you combine multiple AIs to act with one another and to communicate between AIs.
Right. So as marketers, we have a typical workflow that we like to follow, right? We start off by looking at all of this different business data that we have. We take it all in, we analyze it all, and from there, we need to produce some sort of insight, right? We can look through the data, see what trends we can come up with, and from there, we need to then turn that insight into an action. That action could be making a change within an ad account, it could be making new creatives, it could be testing something new. There's a whole variety of things that action could be. But with that action, the most important thing is that action leads to a positive business outcome, right? We want to see a positive return on investment. We want to see a good change come out of whatever action that we take. So that might help us answer this question, right? How can these AI tools help us enhance our workflow? Maybe it's this workflow, maybe it's a different one. And we're here today to talk about AI, and with that, right, we want to see how these AI tools can help us increase our workflow and kind of automate some of the things that we've been talking about, whether it's something that we just mentioned here or going forward, right? But unfortunately, one AI tool isn't going to be able to do that for you. So up here we have a quote from Accenture's conference earlier this year, and there's a few key takeaways here, right? The first is that right now, AI acts as a solitary actor, right? There's only one AI tool at a time that you're going to work with. And right now, as Tyler kind of talked about earlier this morning in his presentation, that AI tool isn't able to do that much for you. You can train it over the course of a couple weeks, a couple months, a year, more than 1 year. And it's going to be really tough for it to automate your kind of entire work that you need to do. But that led Brendan and I to thinking, what if we use multiple AI tools together, right? Is that any different than using just, say, ChatGPT to try to write ad copy for us? So with that, right, if we use multiple AI tools together, it's not really that common. There's one person who's doing it pretty big in our industry right now. Let's get a show of hands. Does anybody know who Mike Rhodes is? Anybody heard of Mike Rhodes? All right, so we got some hands up. So Mike Rhodes, I believe, sponsored today's event. Mike Rhodes, Brendan and I met with him a bunch leading up to this. Mike Rhodes has produced a Performance Max script. And with that script, what he's been able to do is combine ChatGPT with analysis of Performance Max campaigns that we're not able to get from Google itself. So this script, we run it in these accounts, and what it does is it shows us what channel we're spending on, how much we're spending on each channel, where we're getting the best ROI from. And a big thing with Performance Max, right, is that we don't really get too much insight into what people are searching for to end up on our campaigns. Mike's script does just that. So I believe Mike's watching today. Hi, Mike. Thank you for all your help today. Yeah, round of applause for Mike. Absolutely. So getting back to our point here, right? Mike's script is combining multiple AI tools into one to help us enhance our workflow. Here's a picture of Mike's script with one of the clients that we work with every day. And you can see, right, we have different charts breaking down different things that Google isn't able to give to us. So this is just kind of one aspect of how Mike's using AI tools. This is the first sort of tools he's using. It's a AI-driven script that helps us analyze data that we're not able to see in our Google Ads account. And the other thing he does is what Tyler talked about earlier with ChatGPT. So one of the tabs on Mike's sheet is this OpenAI tab. And in there, right, you put in your API key, and you can put in kind of a prompt, what you want this to answer. And what will happen is Mike will go through, and his script will analyze all the data that it collects from this left-hand side here, and it'll give you an output, right? So it could tell you which types of products are most profitable for me, which types of products are least profitable for me, where should I put more money into, and where am I getting the best return on investment from. So Mike's script is kind of the first in the industry right now to take multiple AI tools and pair them together to give us sort of these positive business outcomes that we want to see.
Going off of that, if you think back to the first slide in the presentation, right, what were you trying to establish? The first portion of a marketer's day, right, in terms of a marketer's workflow, is analysis of data. What Mike's script actually allows us to do using AI is analyze a rather complex set of data coming in from PMax and organize it and really format it in a way that you can do analysis off of. The second portion is establishing an insight. So now, no longer are you analyzing the data, formatting it, cleaning it, but it's also performing the insight portion of it. So rather than you sifting through a series of data, you ask it a guided prompt, and it's actually delivering off of that guided prompt for an output. So now, in terms of your workflow, we're establishing two different connections in the four-step journey. So turning data into insight, so that's one key piece of micro:red script, and it's establishing that using two pieces of AI. The second is, if you start to talk to Mike, and we have had some conversations with Mike, what Mike is trying to do is he's trying to inspire others. So if you actually look through the script that he's created, everything is explained. If you read through Mike's blog post, if you read through his website, what you'll find is that Mike is trying to inspire others to manipulate the AI within his software, and he's very vocal about explaining each portion so that you can then go into his script and make customized adjustments. So instead, let's say you want to format the script to, instead of just output data to give you a week-over-week analysis, what he's allowing you to do with a very, very formal script is go into that script and then manipulate it to do the week-over-week analysis. The final piece is all of this was created with generative AI. So Mike came into this idea about a year ago, and when he was going through this, he was selling his agency. So that freed up a lot of Mike's time. So what he wanted to do is he wanted to start to explore coding, and he wanted to learn and make adjustments and fail. That's something as an agency that we really pride ourselves on, is the ability to learn and fail, and that's what Mike is trying to promote with AI. So what he's trying to do is open you up to the possibility of using multiple AIs together, create a space where you have the freedom to go in and test, and then allow you to use your imagination to explore the possibilities. So that brings us to the question. If this is the intent of what Mike is trying to do, how can we use this in our future? So going back to the workflow example, let's take a project. How many people here have written copy for an ad? Great. How many people in here like writing copy for ads? How many people in here do not like writing copy for ads? I find myself in the latter group. So let's go through and we'll look around at a workflow or a possible workflow for actually creating ad copy. Apologies on the slide formatting. That should say competitive research. So now within that, we find ourselves at the first stage, which really is a series of 3 steps, but it's going to be competitor research, industry research, learning your competitive advantages and product differentiation. Then you're going to peruse the messaging or the messaging options based off of those 3 main features and select and develop a piece of copy. Then your final step is selection and/or refinement. More than likely, as we just answered, that at least one of this portion of this process you don't enjoy doing, or you do not have time for on a frequent enough basis. So let's just peruse this. How many people have used ChatGPT to write ad copy? Pretty common practice now. It's really establishing itself. So when we go through the process to write ad copy with ChatGPT, there's 3 stages. There's the instruction of prompts, a lot of which Tyler reviewed in terms of training ChatGPT. Second step is there's ChatGPT producing an output. Third step, more than likely you're not satisfied with that output, so you have to go through the process of selection and refinement. So reviewing feedback, reviewing and providing feedback. So now we'll look at that process again. So you're doing the competitor research. ChatGPT now is doing the actual industry research in this process. We're plugging it into this position. You're learning the competitive advantages and product differentiation. Then you're going through the process of selection of the messaging option and developing the copy. Then you're going through the process of selection and refinement. Now, let's see how multiple AI tools could potentially help fix this. So it could be ChatGPT all the way throughout, or it could be another AI tool. But what if those AI tools are really, really good at that one thing? And that's what we're looking for in the future, is just development of GPTs or some type of generative AI to be really, really good at one specialized thing. And then we're connecting APIs throughout. So if we're going from a GPT to do the industry research, to then a GPT using doing competitor research, and then connecting that with an API that's automating one portion of that process, right? And then we continue to build off of that. So what if you're then using an AI tool to do the competitive advantages and understand product differentiation? Then you're using another AI tool to select and adapt ad copy. Then you're using another AI tool to then refine your options and make adjustments. Now, alongside each phase of this, what you're going to have is you're going to have a human, right, yourself, to go in and check the inputs and outputs of the process, right? So you're physically refining each stage of the process and adapting it towards what you know about it, right? What you're an expert in along the process. However, now getting it one step further, what if you're then going through this process, and instead of you making the adjustments, you're having an AI management tool? That is something that we are heading towards in the near future, and this is a process, when you think about machine learning, that it's doing on the fly, right? So how far away are we from generative AI and multiple tools doing this to somebody actually managing that? And then instead of you checking along each stage of the process, you're taking a step back and checking out the whole part of the process and seeing where things went wrong and training the machine that way. Right? So what does the future look like with multiple AI tools? So using multiple AI tools, what you can do is you can automate your workflow to help your team. So now, instead of you going through the entire process of doing something that you hate, like writing ad copy, you're having ChatGPT, you're having multiple AI tools integrate together and learn along one another in order to produce a better output. Over time, because it's machine learning and because it doesn't have a 10-second memory like you do, it's going to start to produce better outputs over time. So, right, we're producing better outputs. We're also increasing your efficiency. So now, instead of procrastinating or delegating a task that you hated doing, you're getting that time back to spend it on something that you find more valuable or that you're better at, which in turn is enhancing your output to either your team or to the client. The final step is that now you're taking a portion of your workflow that you might not be the best in and you might not excel in, and you're allowing it to act as another team member within your group, right? So you're diversifying your skill set. So now, as somebody who hates writing ad copy, we're producing a better output for ad copy, and we're producing better work, just generally speaking. So right now, in terms of AI working together in generative AI, we're really at phase 1, right? This is the process of Midjourney. So if you look, and if you were an early adopter of Midjourney, right now, in terms of generative AI tools and AI working together, we're really at version 1. But this is only a year and a half later. V6 is now, V6 is now where we're at with Midjourney, and V1 was about a year and a half ago. So in terms of progression, we're rapidly progressing towards the ability to utilize these tools more efficiently and producing better outputs.
Brendan and I didn't just want to talk the talk. We didn't want to tell you that, hey, you can use a bunch of AI tools together to kind of do some of your work for you and help automate your workflow. So we wanted to put together an example, and we wanted to use competitive research as an example, as Brendan talked about previously. So when I first started at Adventure about 9 or 10 months ago at this point, we were working with a client that sold your picture, you can get it printed on a canvas, right? So we wanted to look at our client compared to the dozens and dozens of competitors out there to see our price points on our different product sizes. So this is just maybe an eighth of the competitor research that we did, right? You could see we have a handful of products here. There's a whole bunch more compared to all of our competitors too, right? And we had to go through here and analyze at each product with each competitor to see where we had an advantage. And then from there, right, we had to write ad copy about each version. So this took hours and hours and hours, and then as it was in one of my first weeks, right, I stayed up pretty much all night working on it. So it took me 12 or 15 hours, and what did I have to do? I had to do that again and again and again, right? Because prices are constantly changing. Now, with the tool that Brandon and I built, you're able to do this almost instantly.
So in terms of the project, what we had to do first is we had to define the inputs. We had to understand how the process would actually work and then lay this out in real time. So what we did was we created a script. Now, I don't know how to code. I have no clue, no basis of knowledge. I know a little bit about writing within app scripts in Excel, but I had no prior knowledge to coding. So what we were able to do was we were able to use ChatGPT and a generative AI for coding and start to piece together a script, understanding that we can double check our work using Google Sheets and our knowledge of Google Sheets. Excel would work in this situation too, and actually check our outputs. We also needed to understand what types of products that we wanted to understand and what we wanted to scope them out on the basis of. So in this case, we were scoping it out on the basis of competitive research for pricing. So then what we did was, we used an AI-powered web scraping tool. So there's millions of options when it comes to generative AI for web scraping, but we ended up choosing webautomation.io, which allows you the ability to do a lot of interesting web scraping within the Google Ads ecosystem. So in this case, we chose Google Shopping since we were looking at product pricing. The final piece that we needed was an API to communicate between these tools, which we selected. I'm going to walk you through the output. So going into the next stage of this, we created those Google Shopping URLs, and now we're going into our web scraping tool. So now what we're doing is within that web scraping tool, using an API, we're plugging in those URLs. So what you'll be able to find within this product is a Google Shopping scraping tool. So you can see this here. And we're plugging into that. So now what we're trying to do is based off those competitors that we're inputting, so our top competitors, what we're going to do is we're going to set up a timed loop. So we don't want this loop to just be on a one-day basis. We don't want it to be on a daily basis so we can start to get insights about what our competitors are doing with their product pricing. Within this category specifically, we know that they're changing prices frequently, and within the same product listing, price is a huge factor in terms of making the purchase. So again, plugging in those URLs, going in, we're setting up using tasks, and we're setting up a daily poll. So you can see all the polls that have been created within the sheet over the past, last week. So now what's going to happen is our sheet is going to physically populate the data from the shopping feed. It's scraping all of the competitors that are appearing for those products, and it's populating them into a physical sheet, So at the outcome of the sheet, what we're going to do now within the script is we're going to analyze the data. So similar to taking lead from Mike Rhodes, we're going to populate the data into a format that's actually digestible. So you can see our product within the feed. And you can see it here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the script, and we're going to hit run again. So now what's going to happen is all that data that was just populated from the web scraping tool is going to get organized so that we don't have to physically crawl through and list out the products one by one. It's also going to fill it out for our top competitors. So in terms of the competitors that are appearing, what it's doing is it's giving you a day-over-day view to analyze their product pricing on a one day over one day. You can set the frequency to a different time period, and it's actually telling you the day-over-day pricing change within column E. Then we're going to go one step further. We're going to calculate changes between the same product that we have and our competitor pricing. So within the final step of this, we're going to get another column that's talking about the net difference in pricing between our product and the competitor's same product that's listed. And we're going to get a value change to indicate whether we're overpriced or we're underpriced compared to that competitor. So you see red values here. That's a negative value. One that's indicating is that we're more expensive in these cases by, I believe it was $100 and $300. So within that, what we're trying to indicate within this deck is that we want you to go out and explore the possibilities in terms of using multiple AIs together, even though they're not perfected yet because we're at version 1, but we want you to explore the possibilities that are available. In terms of our next steps, what we're going to do is refinement of the actual script. We're going to physically refine it because it is somewhat limited in terms of scope to just pricing, but we can expand it beyond that, right? We can think about the possibilities. We can look at reviews. We can analyze what our review is compared to our competitors, right? Our star ratings. We can analyze what they're listing in terms of their product titles compared to what we're listing. We can also, right, look at things like descriptions in terms of color, in terms of size, etc. In this case, we were looking at the same diamond, right, across multiple competitors, but you can kind of think about the possibilities. The other idea is that we can look at multiple AIs to actually generate our insights or actions that we should take as a result of this. So, right, taking Mike Rhodes' lead, we could use OpenAI within this script to actually go through and crawl the analysis and give us an output of what it believes our next step should be based off the data. And then finally, we could potentially integrate with Mike Rhodes' script. So we started here by stating that Mike Rhodes had developed a script to make PMAX more accessible, and we use PMAX, I would say, in a large majority to get onto shopping placements and to get into shopping feeds and then to use the script to analyze that shopping data. So who's to say that we can't look at this and integrate our script within Mike Rhodes? So we started with a quote which was describing right now that AIs are somewhat limited in terms of their potential because they're strictly based off input and outputs. However, what we're attempting to prove to you today is that when you use multiple AI tools together, what we will be able to do in the near future is produce more than just input outputs and instead journey into insights and actions.